with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle, and right now we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, President Trump has been impeached.
I'm shocked to hear that.
It's a big yawn. It's a big yawn. Totally anticlimactic, right? I mean, everybody knew exactly what was going to happen. Incredibly partisan. It was really so sad to see. And I would not have watched it, but last night, I was at a place and it just happened to be on in the background. Nobody was watching, by the way. Nobody was even watching the television. You think this vote would be going and everybody would be on their seats. Nothing like that. Nobody even turned around to watch. Nobody cared. It was yawn.
Well, that's about what it was, because people have been listening to this now. I mean, they've been claiming impeachment since before he was the president. So we've been living with this insane syndrome for such a long time that actually people were kind of relieved it was over and they can go out and get some ice cream.
I don't think anybody even realized it was going on. I think it's even worse than that. People did not even realize, unless, of course, you're super political sort of a person who lives and breathes this stuff. But the average American, I mean, I don't even know if they realized that there was this vote going on last night.
Well, I can tell you at Joe's Stone Crabs last night, nobody cared.
Well, I'm telling you.
They were
I wasn't at Joe's, but I was at another.
Shoveling down those Stone Crabs, man. Pass the mustard sauce. I don't care. Impeach what? Well, let me tell you. Impeach this. I'm getting something to eat. That's what it was. I swear I was down there last night, South Point.
Well, so what happens next? And what is President Trump's ticket to survive?
Yeah, well, that's a good one.
Ticket to survive.
There you go.
Well, let's bring on right now Susan Crabtree, who is the senior White House and national political correspondent for RealClearPolitics. I read RealClearPolitics all the time. It's some of the best work out there. I love it because you have a very balanced approach. Susan, welcome to Made in America.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, I do. I do read RealClearPolitics all the time. I love the work that you do. I've read your work. Very, very good. And you've actually published a piece, so where do we go for here? I mean, how does President Trump survive this? Is it jobs, jobs, jobs? Is that the way that the president puts this behind him? What do you say, Susan?
Well, I think, he is the third president in history to be impeached, a U.S. president, but he is the first one that is facing re-election at the same time. So that's a little bit of a different scenario. And some people have argued that the Democrats are just trying to deny him a second term because they're worried, because the economy has been doing so well. And with this China trade deal, we've got a couple of bookends to this impeachment. First, we had an agreement on the UCMA, the Mexico-Canada trade agreement, that has been in the works for 8 months. And the Democrats have refused to move it, even though much of it was already negotiated and agreed to. So now we got that agreement before the impeachment, and then right before he was impeached, you have this China trade deal coming through that sent the market this week to new highs, and it was jittery for a while in the latter part of this year. Although the economy was doing very well and the jobs reports were very good, the economic forecasters were sort of nervous about predicting whether it was going to go south or continue on an upswing next year. Well, after this China trade deal, where you have Larry Kudlow, the top economic advisor for the president, saying it's going to bring $40 to $50 billion in exports to China. I mean, we don't even know if we have that many agricultural exports available to export. After that, it seems like the economic forecasters are quite more confident about saying that next year is going to continue in an upswing. And that will be very good for Donald Trump if he keeps focused on that. And as you know, he has the uncanny ability to swing back and forth, and his moods, just to keeping track of them, it's quite dizzying. But if he can focus on the positive and say, you know, this is the most important issue to voters, is pocketbook issues, the economy, and there are more African Americans at work. There's more minority Hispanic Americans at work today than there were during the Obama administration, and that's really what people at the end of the day care about the most.
So, Rich, you know, it was fascinating to see that, it was, I believe, on CNN or one of the mainstream media sort of outlets where they ranked what the American people are concerned about this holiday season. And impeachment was like, it didn't even make the top 10. I mean, it wasn't there. The economy and jobs, right up top. Well, immigration was on top. So wouldn't it be totally amazing? I mean, totally amazing that a president gets impeached and within a matter of months later he gets reelected. I mean, wouldn't that? I mean, what kind of message does that send, Rich?
Well, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, right now the benefits are inuring to Trump. Right now, his numbers are up across the board in the swing states, the hard-to-get states, the states that he really needs. His numbers now are above anybody else running against him. It wasn't that way a month ago. So it looks like that the Democrats could have shot themselves in the foot. Right now, you know, it's very interesting. When I really was down in South Beach last night at an event. But I got home and late last night I watched it on rerun, you know, on the computer. I watched President Trump while he's being impeached. He's, you know, in Battle Creek, Michigan, which to me was wonderful because I always liked Kellogg's, you know, cornflakes when I was a kid. There was never mess with Tony, the tiger. But he announced what was happening. He even announced the numbers, the way it was coming down, and the place went nuts. So it appears that right now it's really to Trump's benefit. His numbers, his approval numbers have come up dramatically, 6-7 points since before this whole thing started. So he's doing pretty good with it. And not only that, the Republican Party is getting a lot of money as a result of this. They're setting some records, Neal, in what they're taking in.
So, Susan, you know, with the Speaker Pelosi saying, okay, well, we're not going to deliver these articles of impeachment to the Senate. You know, we're just going to hold on to them. I mean, what's that all about?
It's really strange to me because constitutionally, the House has the power to impeach, and then the trial moves to the Senate. So now she's trying to control the trial in the Senate, and that's unconstitutional as far as, you know, as any constitutional expert is concerned. I mean, this is her using her leverage to try to intimidate McConnell. And if it were me, I would put my money on McConnell in that sort of game of chicken. He has no desire to. He doesn't care if this goes on forever. It's going to hurt the Democrats who are up, who have to campaign in the primaries in New Hampshire and Iowa caucus in early February if this is delayed. So he's sort of just like, I don't know what you're trying to, what kind of leverage you're trying to gain over me, but it's in your best interest to move this process along. And if you don't like the way that we are going to hold the trial, that is your problem. McConnell earlier this week rejected some requests, and I'll call them requests because Schumer the minority leader does not have control of the way the trial is run and which witnesses are called. But Schumer wanted to call people like Nick Mulvaney and others, and the Republicans want a speedy trial. They want this out of the way, as Senator Graham, who's going to run the Judiciary Committee in the process, has said. He just wants to get this out of the way. They're not even agreeing to some of what Trump supporters want, and to have the whistleblower on trial, to have the Bidens on trial, or hit the witness stand and be questioned. They're not agreeing to that either. They just want this to be dispensed with quickly, But they don't need to dispense it quickly. It's the Democrats that need to get this over with. So Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and others who are Amy Klobuchar, these senators who are running for president, can get back out to the campaign trail.
Well, interestingly, even if they do not deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate can still dismiss. All they have to do is get sworn in by the Supreme Court justice. They can adjudicate what they're talking about right now, and it can be dismissed. 3 major talking heads this week have said that's exactly, including Mark Levin, exactly said what they can do with that. So it would be very, very interesting. And I think Mitch McConnell and others and Graham do want to have this done quickly because they want to acquit as quickly as possible. They can always investigate after the fact, and there are other areas that they can do that in. But it's very important to acquit and discharge all the charges and be free and clear of that. Of course, the Democrats claim they're going to come back with more impeachment. So it's like, it's the Energizer Bunny. It just goes on and on and on, except Pelosi's wearing black, not pink.
They were talking about impeaching Kavanaugh as well. I mean, this is something that the Democrats have been very focused on to try to disrupt the reelection of Donald Trump. And Gerald Nadler, the head of the House Judiciary Committee, was caught at an Acela train saying just that. So, and this was months before the Ukraine call, that after the midterms they were going to move to impeach Trump and to impeach Kavanaugh. So they're going to. Yeah.
Hey, Susan, we got to take a quick break. We're with Susan Crabtree, who's the senior White House and national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Still a lot to talk about what's happening in the Democrat primary. Very, very important. Has a lot to do with your jobs. Stick with us.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, and we're together with Dr. Rich Rothman, my incredible co-host, and Susan Crabtree, who is the senior White House and national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. So, Susan, changing gears a little bit, let's go over to the Democrat primary and what's going on there. And something that's been very fascinating, and I didn't see this coming, and I read a lot, and I didn't see it happening this way. Elizabeth Warren is really falling. I mean, she is falling, and I had kind of ruled old Bernie out. And, as Elizabeth is falling, Bernie is going up. And it seems to me, I mean, and it's in the contradiction is that she's getting hammered for Medicare for all and, taking away everybody's health care. And it's because, she can't say how they're going to pay for it and nobody believes her anymore. And everybody's getting very nervous about it. But Bernie's picking up, votes and votes and votes. And he's going up in the polls. And he's the one who authored the thing. And he seems to be getting a pass on Medicare for all. I don't know. I mean, you're the national correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Explain that to me.
Well, he's at least, he's the one who wrote the damn bill.
That's right.
He has that printed out on T-shirts, So he is authentic. And in this race, it's in the last 2 presidential races, it's been sort of a contest of authenticity. Trump really had the edge there against Hillary Clinton. Nobody really related to Hillary Clinton or believed what she was saying was coming from the heart, that it was just her time to be coronated. And so Trump managed to wrestle that away from her. And this time we're seeing Sanders, who, if you've ever been to a Sanders rally, the following, even a year after I went in 2018 in California. I went to one of his rallies. You would think that, it was sort of like, okay, well, the burn has sort of subsided a little bit. It's 2018, not 2016. No, these guys had his books in their hands. They were out there. They were raising their cell phones and trying to get it all on film. It was quite energized. I was surprised by that. But you also have both of the top 2 candidates now with Biden and Sanders. We have some health problems going on here. They're older, and Bernie's back on the trail after his heart problems. I just don't see how this is 2 of the strongest candidates the Democrats can put up. But when it comes to his Medicare for all bill, he has been very honest about how it would be paid for, and he said taxes will go up even on the middle class. So I think people appreciate the fact that he's straightforward. Yeah,
he is straightforward. I mean, he may be a little, maligned in his head a little bit about what he's saying, but he is straightforward. I got to tell you, when we've been watching what's going on with Hillary, and these photos came out of Hillary, by the way, in the last week, and I've got to tell you, she looks remarkably different than she did earlier in the last few years. Neil, I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, I think she's getting ready for Mount Rushmore. If you look at her, no, seriously, if you look at her profile, look at her face, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see that in granite. I mean, I can see that happening.
Well, you see something that I don't see.
Well, all right, let me get serious. So, Susan, where do you see Bloomberg in all of this? All right, so we have Bernie Sanders, who, he's getting older and he had the heart problem, and in other eras, people would have said, well, he's too old and he really can't do it. Okay, so we're going to have an old white guy. We've got that guy. Elizabeth Warren is there, and Elizabeth Warren was attacked because she couldn't actually say where the money was going to come from. And Wharton came out a week ago and said, oh, no, she was off by trillions. So that didn't work out well for her. So then you got Bloomberg out there who's telling us that, you can't have a big Coke and you can't have a milkshake in New York if it's 16. You can't do it because he knows better. Mm-hmm. He knows better. I don't know. That's going to not resonate well, I can tell you, in Kansas City, where I spent 7 months and all they do is eat. I'm just telling you that. Bloomberg ain't working in Kansas City in the Midwest. Well, so where do you see all this going? The loose cannons. Where do you see the loose cannons going?
Well, Bloomberg, to address that, he's 5% nationally, so he qualified for the debate. But Iowa, New Hampshire, he's not even in the mix, okay? He got into this really late. You can't, especially in the Democratic, with the Democratic constituency going so to the left these days, there's no way a billionaire, they believe another billionaire can somehow buy the Democratic nomination. You have Elizabeth Warren, casting aspersions on him for that. I just don't see how he brings anything all that new and different to the table in terms of his personality. I don't think he's larger than life figure that can compete on the national stage against Trump. And
that's like an oxymoron when you look at him, by the way, larger than life, because he's a little guy. Yeah. I mean, he's little.
Yeah, there you go.
Just saying, I had to say it, Susan, sorry.
He's a household name, but not for the majority of Americans.
But Susan, imagine,
pick him out in the lineup.
Susan, you were saying that you were at a Bernie event, 2 years after the election, and everybody was still so energized and so pumped up about it. But those same people who were at the Bernie Sanders event that you were at, there's just no way they're going to be energized by a Michael Bloomberg should he get the nomination, right? I mean, that whole part of the Democrat Party is just not going to show up. I mean, how are they going to support a white guy, super $55 billion guy? Yeah. I mean, it has to be anathema to them. I mean, they would vote for Trump before they would vote for Bloomberg. I don't know. What do you think?
I doubt that much. I won't go that far, but you're right. I mean, the type of people that work, there was a big labor contingent that I think Bloomberg's had problems with his own company on those issues. I just don't think that he's their guy.
The minority community too, with the stop and frisk. I mean, what constituency does he have? And unfortunately, Susan, we got to end it there. You've been a wonderful guest, but unfortunately, we got to break. And come back and join us real soon. Susan Crabtree, the senior White House and national political correspondent for Real Clear Politics. It's been wonderful to have you with us, Susan.
Great to be on with you.
Coming up, we have Gretchen Smith from Coda Vets. And I got to tell you, our vets need your help this holiday season. We're going to talk about that. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neil Asbury's Made in America.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. So, Rich, this is our last show before Christmas.
I know.
We're going to do we'll do another show next week, and then that'll be it for the year. But, Christmas is a time to reflect, right, on all the wonderful things that we have and our dreams and some of the things that went well this year and some of the things that we wish could have been better. But, we're so blessed. We're so blessed in this country and so many wonderful things going on. But, there are folks out there and that has sacrificed so much for us, that's put their lives on the line, that's gone away to foreign places, very hostile environments, and put their lives on the line. Some don't come home. In fact, many don't come home, and some come home and they're
traumatized.
They've been hurt. They've been
they've been very, very hurt. The holiday seasons, Neal, are a very hard time of the year for a lot of people.
For
in the
a lot
country.
of people,
There's a lot of suicide over the holiday season.
Yeah. And of course, I'm talking about those folks, those great men and women in our military, and what they've done for us. So let's always remember them. And there's a lot of pain in with our vets, and things coming back home and getting back into society and so forth. For many, did not work out the way that they would have hoped, that we would have all hoped. During this holiday season, there's a lot of suicide, and within our veteran community, there's a lot of homelessness. There's a lot of needs, and there's a great organization out. And they're doing incredible work. They approach one veteran at a time and help to raise money for them for whatever they're going through to make their lives better on social media. I mean, the power of social media, absolutely amazing. We're very pleased to have with us Gretchen Smith, who's with Code of Vets, who helps our vets throughout the year, but especially during this holiday period. Gretchen, so tell us, it's so wonderful that you're with us. We talked a little bit about what you do before we got on air here. But tell us, what is Code of Vets and what you're doing, and specifically what we can do to help you.
Thank you, Neal, Rich, for having me. Code of Vets is a social media organization. We are a 501c3, but we primarily operate on social media platforms to raise awareness about veterans in crisis and in need. And I just want to momentarily say that the inspiration of Code of Vets is my dad. He was a Vietnam veteran. He lost his battle with PTSD, and his tragic death and life has inspired me to work every day, 365 days a year, for our veterans in need. We need to be out there speaking for them. We just had a suicide last night from within our own Code of Vets community, and I just want to give my heartfelt condolences to the family, the Curtis family. We will always remember Paul Curtis. But anyway, what we do is we take one veteran at a time. We highlight their crisis or their need. We talk about them. We put a face and the name to a term veteran, and whether they need a couple bags of groceries, if they're living in a car, I don't care what the issues are, we are able to respond to them within a matter of hours using the power of social media.
So that's amazing. And like, do you have like who's following you on social media? Do you have a lot of people out there who's you obviously have a lot so plugged into. How
do you facilitate this? That's a big responsibility and job.
How did you create that community?
Yeah, I'm so excited you asked that. We have almost 200,000 followers at this point. We are new. We're growing like wildfire because we are grassroots. We're heart driven. No one makes a paycheck with Code of Vets. We literally are turning around, bringing the funds in, and directing it out to the veteran in crisis. I have a team in place, and we're all volunteers throughout the country, and we vet the veterans. Once the veteran is vetted and the situation is vetted, then I present that veteran to social media. I live stream about it. I share their pictures. I talk about their stories, and we raise the funds that are needed. But not only do we do that, but we walk with the veteran. We wrap around them and make sure that they become stabilized long-term by making sure they get the benefits that they're entitled to. And also we partner with local organizations to make sure that veteran is taken care of at the local level.
Well, this is a really, really wonderful cause in work that you're doing. I mean, one of the things that we do right here in Made of America, and Neal, we've been doing this for years. We're very, very, very significantly pro-veteran in helping those who really have served this country. You know, we all derive incredible benefit as a result of our veterans and the sacrifice they've made overseas and right here in our own country. And so how do people get a hold of you? How can they help?
They can find us on codavets.com, our website. Donate, join. If you're a vet in need, fill out the form. We will be responding to you within a 24 to 48-hour period. We literally are crisis intervention. We can intervene immediately within hours, and that's the power of using social media for something good. It can be incredibly divisive and ugly at times, but when you use it for something good, oh, my gosh, it's amazing because we can unite patriots and veterans from across the country for a common cause, and that's our American heroes, our warriors, the guys who have protected us and kept us safe. So that's our goal, is to take one veteran at a time, solve the issues in their life, and create a beautiful network for them as they move forward and just keep going. And they turn around and they're like, Gretchen, I want to help. I want to be a part of this. So they can turn around and reach out to the next brother in arms and say, I've been there. Let me help you. Let me guide you through this. And that's what it's all about, is us taking care of each other and not looking to D.C. for solutions. We are the solution.
Wow, absolutely fascinating, and the work that you do is so vitally important, and your passion, it comes out so clearly, and you're so articulate about it. It's amazing. I mean, Gretchen, God bless you and all the great work you do, and all those around you, and the team and the organization that you put together, and what you're doing for these very, very wonderful people in their time of need. Wow, I'm so glad that we have people like you in our country.
Thank you. And find us on Twitter, Code of Vets, and join us on this mission to take care of our own, one veteran at a time. Woo!
Very good.
Very good.
You should be in radio. Very good. Thanks, Gretchen.
I'm just fired up.
We've been with Gretchen Smith from Code of Vets. And coming up next, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be very great discussion. We have Andy Mangione on. He's from the Association of Mature American Citizens. And there's been a big event with Obamacare here just this past week, and we're going to talk about it. It's very, very important. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. So, Rich, there was a big deal this week with Obamacare and with everything else that's going on right now. What's happening with impeachment and the back and forth and the USMCA and this phase one deal with China, and just so much is going on in our country. I mean, it's been a very, very busy week. But the Court of Appeals has found, it's going through the whole legal process again, has found that Obamacare, otherwise known as the Affordable Care Act, was unconstitutional. Wow, that's huge, right? Because why is that tax, that mandate that everybody had to pay, has been removed from the ACA, or Affordable Care Act, and that was the basis that Justice Roberts said that Congress had the ability to tax, and since Obamacare was a tax, they could tax and they could take over your health care at the same time. I mean, amazing that he could connect those dots, but he connected those dots.
Well, it's also amazing that the Supreme Court did that and developed the tax when the tax should be developed in the House, and it didn't happen that way. So the whole thing was rather strange.
It was yes. It was fanciful.
In short, yes.
Yes.
There you go.
But this week it's a really big deal, and it is a big deal. We talked about Obamacare for so many times at this show, but what happened is just gone like right under the radar, and I don't think people realize how big of an issue this is. But Andy Mangione knows, and he's going to be joining us now, and he's with the Association of Mature American Citizens, otherwise known as AMAC, and they are a 2 million member conservative alternative to the AARP. And thank God that they're there, because we need them to be there. We need them to be there, and they're doing great work for us. Andy, welcome to Made in America.
Thank you very much for having me, Neal.
So very, very big deal here, and it's amazing how this is just kind of under the radar. I mean, none of the politicians are talking about this, but this looks like a redux going back to the Supreme Court at some point to decide, is Obamacare constitutional? And if Justice Roberts says it was constitutional because it was a tax, but now the tax is no more there, can he vote in favor of Obamacare like he did the last time? What do you say?
So it's going to be hard for him to twist and contort himself the way he did when he called the individual mandate a tax. And you're right. We have to go back to President Trump's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which effectively repealed the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate. And it did that, Neal, by lowering the penalty for failing to obtain health insurance to $0 beginning this year. And therefore, that individual mandate would cease to be a constitutional exercise of Congress's taxing power, because the associated financial penalty no longer produces at least some revenue for the federal government. So what you have here, and what was argued, was that the mandate is now just a command to purchase health insurance, and the Supreme Court has already held this is an unconstitutional exercise of Congress's power to regulate interstate commerce. And yesterday, the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans agreed with a lower court's ruling that the individual mandate is unconstitutional. So that's gone. So what you have is the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, on a respirator right now. The Fifth Circuit is going to send the issue back to lower courts to decide whether other aspects of the Affordable Care Act must fall. And this could very well end up back in the Supreme Court in an election year in 2020. But it's going to be it's going to be difficult without that individual mandate. The ACA is relatively toothless.
Well, I have to ask you a question, because we've been reading up on this as well. Why didn't the Fifth Circuit Court just invalidate the entire law? I mean, how do you pull the individual mandate out from a $2,700 page act and then continue the basis for the act? There seems to be, why did it have to go back to the lower court than to go back to the Supreme Court?
Rich, you ask a very, very good question. AMAC works in Washington, and we were actually rubbing shoulders with a gentleman that was litigating this case, in Texas. This is the Texas v. Azar. This Fifth Circuit is what we're talking about. And we were confident that that Obamacare would be gone, just with the fact that the individual mandate has been ruled unconstitutional. Therefore, the law must be gone. Sure. And I can't answer. I don't know what these this panel of judges was thinking. There's other parts. But the appeals court deferred to the lower court to decide the severability question, and that's the issue at hand right here. I don't know why they didn't take care of it once and for all with this decision.
So, Andy, you represent 2 million members. You have 2 million members.
It's a great organization.
And you're the conservative alternative to the AARP, like I just said earlier. Right. And you do incredible work. And obviously, you feel, and speaking on behalf of your membership, you feel that Obamacare has not been good for the country, and that I can see that you're pretty excited to see that it could be finally ruled unconstitutional and go away. So tell us why that is. I mean, why would you and your members like to see Obamacare repealed and actually now just found unconstitutional, which I guess it's in the trash bin of history at that point?
Yeah. To use Reagan's the ash heap of history, but our members. We're a member-driven organization, Neal. Our members give us our marching orders with regard to the issues that we take to Washington, that we take on a grassroots level across the country, and our members do not like any aspect of government intrusion in their health care. They don't like government intrusion in anything, but particularly health care. We have a lot of over 65 members. We have a lot of under 65 members. And to a person, they want the government to have very little, if anything at all, to do with their health care. They felt that Obamacare was an intrusion, the likes of which they hadn't experienced before. Our members are big believers in free markets. They're big believers in faith, family, and freedom. They're big believers in free enterprise. And they feel that the markets are the best place for competition to take place, for innovation to take place, and you don't get any of that with a one-size-fits-all type of government plan that Obamacare was, and that, interestingly, Democrats are advocating for with this Medicare for All nonsense. But our members just felt that the choice went away, the competition. You had skyrocketing premiums. They'd like to see insurance conducted across state lines. Okay, I mean, get rid of these fiefdoms that are these State Department of Insurances, and give everybody an opportunity to compete. And what do you think will happen to premiums? They'll go down. They believe in free markets, and they think that that's the best place to settle competition.
You know what it comes down to? Neal? AARP sold out their own membership, sold it out, and hurt them with their health care. AMAC would not do that. I've been following this for a while. This is a great organization.
Hey, Andy, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Rothman got the last word in, but we really appreciate your thoughts, and we'd like to get you back to comment on a lot of other topics. So we'll be reaching back out to you. Andy Mangione from the Association of Mature American Citizens, otherwise known as AMAC, and you can find them at amac.us. Andy, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I are going to have some final thoughts for the day.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, you talk about the Supreme Court actually hearing again Obamacare to find out, to rule again if it is constitutional or not. The reason why it was found constitutional before has been removed. So I don't see how they can find it.
That was the one clause that they found
keep it. Justice Roberts found
That's
that
right.
one clause,
and he
twisted it.
Exactly.
Twisted it into something that it wasn't, and he decided that
he wrote a tax.
He
wrote a tax.
He decided that it was a tax.
How did they get away with that?
Not even the Democrats were calling it a tax because, it would have been very bad for the American people. They would have rejected it even more than they rejected it if they started to call it was a tax. The Democrats politically could not call it a tax, but yet Justice Roberts decided that, he had the authority to do that. I don't know. He's a very great man. I don't want to second guess him, but that one was a head scratcher to me. I don't know how that whole thing came about, but what's the irony of the whole situation is that it may not be around anyway because the Democrats want to kill it now even more than the Republicans do.
Yeah, that's the irony of all. They don't even care anymore.
Yes, they don't even care anymore.
They're going so far to the left right now, they don't care.
They want it gone. I mean, their whole thing is Obamacare was a disaster. It needs to be Medicare for all.
According to them, was a moderate.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Amazing.
A moderate. Unbelievable.
Another thing I got to comment on is that, how the press was all about this Brexit thing and Boris Johnson, and it was like so many in the media were writing how, there's going to be another referendum and, Brexit is never going to happen. And, if there was a vote, the British people would say that they made a huge mistake and they really didn't mean it. And
they didn't understand what they were voting for.
Now let's do a over and, we're going to get a vote and it's going to come out to where, everybody's holding hands and we're going to be this big, beautiful European community and so on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
That didn't work out that way.
Didn't work out that way.
And not only it was a landslide, it wasn't even close. It just shows how far left and in the tank for the progressive liberal agenda that the British media isn't. We talk about this left-wing media, the mainstream media here in the United States, but the British definitely has their own version of that.
Oh, sure.
I mean, just as crazy as what we have here in our country.
Well, any country that can give you Monty Python, could certainly easily handle left-wing media, for goodness sakes.
Well,
now for something entirely different.
Well, see, that's just it. As here in the United States, if you got this whole thing going on in Britain, and like the British are there, and then the media is basically saying that Brexit's going to never happen and it's going to be overturned. We're going to have another referendum. It's going to be a landslide. We want to stay in the European Union. No way, no how. I mean, if you take a look, Tony Blair's seat flipped. Some of these Labour seats that flipped in the UK, absolutely amazing. These the same thing's happening in the UK that's happening in the United States. It is the Tories that's getting the working class vote. It was the Labour that was always there. They existed because of the working class vote. Labour Party in the UK has become like the Democratic Party here. It is the elitist. It's the London elitists who are trying to run the country, just like you have the two coasts of the United States, these enclaves on either coast in the United States, the liberal elite that's trying to run the country, and that whole big flyover country, they could care less about.
They don't count.
They don't count.
They're the deplorables.
Right, but they think that they can legislate for the whole country.
But, Neal, look what happened over there. It was really a question of capitalism versus socialism.
Well, don't you think that's happening?
Conservatism versus social, and the socialists got knocked out. It was a big loss.
Tremendous.
And then here we come up within the, really soon for our election, and they're saying, well, you know what? That might be a potency of things to come right here in the United States.
Well, there are certainly some differences, but there are a tremendous amount of similarities. Agree. And, the whole thing to come out of this, too, is the possibility, I think it's a very big possibility, that there will be a U.S.-UK free trade agreement.
Well, that's what Boris Johnson said. He was looking forward to developing a very strong trade agreement with the United States. This is a good opportunity for us, and I think it's a very good opportunity for the UK. They're going to get a chance to do what they want to do with their own country, which is kind of interesting. And it gets a chance for us to do even more, because after all, we have that, in quotation marks, italics, special relationship.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. But, Rich, unfortunately, the time went by so quickly.
That's the way it goes.
We're out of time, but we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.